Thanks for stopping by. If you have a GM SUV or pickup truck and you have the dreaded P0172, P0175 codes, both at the same time, I'm going to show you how to troubleshoot that today. Let's get to it. You're going to need some kind of scanner to do this troubleshooting. I'm using the Launch X431 Pro. Let me show you what you need to check for. Whenever you get new parts from the auto parts store, whether it's something like this, fuel line or a fuel pump, brake calipers, they always come with these caps. It's always a good idea to save these caps. I happen to have a drawer full of them, and they're going to be really useful for this troubleshooting. So whenever you get parts like this, don't throw these little rubber things out. Stick them in a coffee can or whatever kind of container you use. The troubleshooting that I'm going to show you today assumes that you've taken care of the basics. You've either changed or checked your air filter, changed or cleaned your mass airflow sensor, and cleaned your throttle body. Those could lead to having a rich code. Once those things are squared away, you're pretty much left with only a couple of options. Either you have an issue with your EVAP system where the engine is drawing in fuel vapors from the tank when it shouldn't be. You have a problem with your injectors and they're leaking or running too rich, or you have an issue with your high pressure fuel pump. So I'm going to show you how to check those three things: the EVAP, the injectors, and the high pressure fuel pump. Of course, the first thing we need to do is plug into our OBD. All right, let's start our diagnosis. You can use whatever scanner you want. I'm using the X41 Pro Elite from Launch. Connect up to your vehicle. Go to your engine control module. And let's read some data. And you can check your oxygen sensors, make sure they're working okay. I've already checked those. I know they're working okay. So I need to look at my long-term fuel trims and my short-term fuel trims. So now I can read it in real time, and you can see how bad they are. They're all negatives and they're really high, and that's because the computer is getting a reading from the oxygen sensors that the engine's running too rich. If I bring the RPM up to around 2000, those will slowly start to go back to zero, which is about where they should be. It takes a little while for the long terms to start to go down because they're long term, but you'll see the short term react almost immediately. All right, so that took about 30 seconds for them to start to drop down, but that's still not good at all. We need to start isolating some systems. First thing we're going to check is the EVAP. To disconnect the EVAP line and isolate that system, we need to take this box off. So on this side you push up, push this hose off, and on the other side you push down and push the hose off. And then you need to take the hose clamp off here and over at the air filter. And then this thing should just come off. So this hose right here is coming from the EVAP, and right here is your EVAP purge valve, and you need to disconnect this. And the way you disconnect this is you push down on this gray part and then get the hose off. So now we're disconnected. We just need to cover this up with one of those plastic plugs. And I'm just going to use this right here. It fits on there nice and snug. Now we won't have an issue with it sucking air. It'll just isolate the EVAP. And reconnect these hoses. Now let's check our readings. So what you want to do is restart the vehicle and take the RPMs back up to around 2,000 for a little bit to get the long terms to start to go down. Okay, so now my long terms have gone back down after about a minute, and I'm going to let off the gas and see what happens. And you can see they went right back up. So that tells me that my EVAP system is not the problem because I'm not connected to it anymore. So if doing this test does correct your fuel trims, then you know you have a problem with your EVAP system, most likely the purge valve, that it's stuck open and it's constantly drawing fumes from the tank. It really shouldn't be doing that at idle. I'm going to hook that line back up and show you the next test. Just pulling this injector connection off to get a better shot. The PVC goes into the intake right here, and it's another one of the connectors like this. Squeeze it and pull the hose off. And now we need to cap that so we don't have a vacuum leak. All right. And now we'll restart it because what we've done here now is we're not pulling any crankcase fumes into the intake. Let's rerun the test. Here's what my long-term fuel trims are with the PVC line disconnected and capped. So obviously I have some kind of issue with fuel getting into the oil. And for that, there's basically two things. Either the injectors are leaking or the high pressure fuel pump is leaking into the crankshaft. So let me show you how to check and see if the injectors are leaking. Now I have my fuel pressure sensor reading in my data stream so I can watch what's happening with the fuel pressure. And I'm going to shut it off and turn it right back on. So when I shut it off and turn the key right back on, you'll see that my fuel pressure is increasing. Now that's because the engine's hot and it's building up pressure in that line. That's normal with the engine off to have the pressure continue to rise like that. It's also an indication that your injectors are not dripping into the cylinders and running down into the crankcase. So my pressure is okay. Sometimes it may just stabilize at a certain amount. As long as it's not continually dropping, that's an indication that you don't have leaking injectors. And that just leaves one thing, and that's the high pressure fuel pump, which I'm going to have to change. Unfortunately for me, I have to change my high pressure fuel pump. It's pretty involved. The high pressure fuel pump is mounted underneath the intake manifold. I'm going to record a video about how to do that. So hit the subscribe button, and that way you'll get notified if that's something that you have to do, or maybe you just want to check out some of my other stuff. Thanks for watching.